I think it's becoming quite clear. Brad Underwood is focused clearly on March.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome one, welcome all to another episode of Locked On Illini. My name is Sunny Verma. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. If you'd like to support the channel, find us on your favorite audio platform or make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Just do a search for Locked On Illini. Same goes for social media. Do a search for Locked On Illini. Say hello, say something nice, say something not so nice. Just keep it constructive. That's all I ask. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So for today's episode, I kind of wanted to round up my thoughts on Tuesday's post-game at that beatdown that we really gave the Indiana Hoosiers. There's no other way to put it. It's a game that we clearly could have won by more than 30 points. And there's a lot of narratives that came from that game, which while most were focused on Indiana and their ineptness and just how poorly that program is playing right now, there were some thoughts about Illinois, which I thought was kind of clear as day. I've talked about it on here on Locked On Illini. My everydayers will know what I'm about to reference. And I'll just go ahead and start and say, okay, so the biggest concern was a lot of people saying, why are the starters in at the end of the game? I want to make it clear. I think it's become plenty obvious. If anything, it was confirmed against the Hoosiers on Tuesday night. Brad Underwood is more focused on March than he is concerned about winning the Big Ten Conference or the Big Ten tournament or anything like that. The reason being is obvious. Sure. Why, if you're up 30 points with 3 minutes left, have you not brought in some of the guys on your bench? Why have you not brought in the Kerry Boots, the AJ Reds, etc.? And it's quite simple to me. The game is different now. The eye test matters as less as it ever has, and it's all about KenPom. It's all about the Torvik numbers. It's all about the net rankings. By the way, after Tuesday's beatdown of the Hoosiers, Illinois now stands at number 8 in the net rankings, number 9 in the KenPom rankings, number 4 in the Torvik rankings. So you wonder, again, why not take a guy like Kasparis out when there's 4 minutes left and the game is in hand? Because Brad doesn't know if he's going to win the Big Ten Conference this year. And what's going to be important is if Illinois is in the top 10 of those rankings that I just mentioned at the end of the season, Brad can still squeeze in an opportunity to get a top 2 seed in the tournament, in whichever bracket that we end up being in. And of course, that's going to be extremely important. If you can get that number 2, that means you're not playing the Auburns, the Dukes, the Tennessees, the really, really tough teams out there. What happened the season prior to this? That was a Final Four team. That Terrence Shannon Jr., Marcus Domask team from last season was capable of making it to the Final Four. Why didn't they? Because they ran into that juggernaut of a number 1 seed in UConn. I think Brad is trying to avoid that by all measures this year. Of course, you always worry about injury, right? Nobody wants to risk their players getting hurt with 3 or 4 minutes left in the game that's well in control. But unfortunately, with the way these games are now analyzed, net ranking absolutely takes into account the amount that you beat your opponent from here on out. And a 30-plus point victory against Oregon and a 25-point victory against Indiana, both away, are going to do wonders for those numbers, especially considering we kind of have to, at this point, make up for that no-show against USC on Saturday. Brad Underwood, another way people have been complaining is, of course, the play of Ben Hummerkaus a couple weeks back. Will Riley, who I'm going to be getting to in a couple minutes, he's not playing too well. So a lot of people are calling for their minutes. Even Tomislav Ivicic, myself included, hand up. I've talked about, wondering with their struggles, are we better off giving more minutes to a guy like Morez Johnson? And if the Big Ten Conference title was the most important goal in Brad Underwood's eyes, I think he would be quicker with the hook when it comes to these struggling players playing big minutes. Every game matters, especially in the Big Ten Conference, right? That Northwestern game. If a couple personnel changes had happened, maybe we could have come out on top of that game. I've also noticed it in the postgame press conferences. When Ben was struggling, Brad would be preemptive in the postgame press conferences, talking about how important he was to the defense and how, again, he claimed he was the best defensive player, I think, in the previous 7 or 8 games in a row. He was doing the same thing about Tomislav Ivicic up until this last game. Why? Because he knows Tommy, Ben Hummerkaus, and ultimately Will Riley, these guys are going to be needed for Illinois to hit their ceiling in March. Will it potentially cost them a game in the Big Ten Conference here and there? Maybe. Is that ideal? Does he want that? Absolutely not. But what he wants is a national championship. What he wants is a Final Four. And he's sticking with his players, the guys that he sees in practice each and every day. He knows what they're capable of. Because, again, if they weren't doing it in practice, guess what? They wouldn't be playing in regular games. I know this because Kerry Booth is not playing in regular games. Kerry Booth was a former 4-star who started, I believe, 19 games for Notre Dame last year. He's not playing minutes this year. You know why? It's because obviously he's not showing the effort and he's not doing what the coaches are asking him to do. And that's why he's sitting. Ben continues to do, even during his struggles a month ago. Will Riley, Tomislav Ivicic, these guys, they share a bond in the sense that we saw what Tommy's had, 17 points, I think, something along those lines yesterday. He outplayed Umar Ballo. If Tomislav is our second option, which I've talked about, Illinois still desperately needs. Last year, Marcus Domask, it was right around this time in January, emerged as the Robin to Terrence Shannon Jr.'s Superman or Batman. Okay, here I am confusing my analogies. If Tommy can give you 17 and 11 and be a potential all Big Ten type of big, and more importantly, if he's making 3-pointers, I've said this before, this team is impossible to guard. With the amount of weapons that we have on the floor, this team, if Tommy's making 3-pointers confidently, one of the big differences I've noticed in the beginning of the year, I kept complimenting him that every time he caught the ball behind the 3-point line, he didn't hesitate. He just shot the ball. And it would go in more often than not. Lately, he's become a little bit more hesitant. Obviously, the offensive struggles are bothering him. But Brad's got his back, as we all should have his back. And moving forward, I don't want people to really be surprised. Of course, you run the injury risk, but I think Brad is just playing the odds here. And notice, after that scuffle against the Hoosiers on Tuesday night, Kasparis was gone shortly thereafter that. When he senses the environment is getting hostile, well, then it's time to take his guys out, and he did. Which, by the way, if you're on the losing end, if you're down 30 points, isn't it just proper basketball protocol that you're the one who should be subbing in your subs first? I'm actually surprised that so many people were venting or complaining about Brad keeping his starters in when it was clear that Mike Woodson still had his starters in at the end of the game. Once Mike cleared his bench, then it would have made more sense for Brad to clear his bench. But it didn't happen. And again, Brad's not going to be aggressive with it because the 30-point victories are nice. And that's just what's going to be the focus moving forward. Speaking of, again, Illinois now has 2 30-point Big Ten victories. 1 away, 1 at home. And I want to give credit to, I believe it was Greg Waddle on Sleepers Media, who pointed this out. And I thought such a great thought that I wanted to bring it up here, especially with the theme being about March. How impressive is it? A 30-point victory against Oregon on the road, a 25-point victory against Indiana at Indiana. Assembly Hall, whether the team is good or not, is always one of the toughest college basketball environments to play. You know where you don't play in March? At home. Illinois right now is getting accustomed to, and they're showing that they're not afraid of going on the road. That when they're capable of going on 20-4, 18-3 runs anywhere. It doesn't have to be at home. If it's at home, it's impressive. It still looks good. But the fact that this team is taking down really good basketball teams, Oregon and Indiana, I believe, was number 2 in the Big 10 preseason poll, and Oregon was top 5. Teams with talent on them. Illinois is going into their place, and they're breaking records. Twice in 4 games, they've broken the records of points scored in an opposing team's arena. That builds confidence. That is, again, what Brad is building towards. He wants this team to be ready that come March, when only 50% of the crowd is rooting for you and cheering for you, the team will be ready. The team is not going to be overwhelmed by any sort of crowd or anything like that. It's impressive. This entire season, and it maybe took me until January 15th to really confirm it against that Hoosiers team. We're built for March, and that's what Brad Underwood is building his team towards. And we'll have more right after this.
From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed, that's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Appreciate you all joining me again. The perks of doing these episodes live, it looks like as I was recording that first segment, Illinois landed another 2026 prospect, the football side, Nebraska offensive lineman Landon Von Stegern, a big, beefy guy from the offensive line. I know Brad's going to go aggressively to replenish that offensive line, so looks like we got our first guy in tow. I'll probably do a little bit more in-depth a review of him and analyze him for you guys in a future episode. Something else I wanted to talk about is a quote that I got from Burke White on Monday night that, I know we're all feeling good as Illini fans. And there's still a certain segment of fans who just refuse to be happy, right? And I want to talk about this Luke Goody, Indiana incident that happened at the end of the game. But I wanted to start off with this. Like, some of you may not have seen the interview I had with Burke. Burke is the host of an Often Daunted podcast. It's an Indiana Hoosiers podcast. And I wanted to bring him on to give us some perspective on the Hoosiers. And he said this, and it stuck with me for 2 days now. And I want to replay it for you guys, and we'll talk about it right after. Listen to this.
Lately, but I will say for the exhibit of Luke Goody, he has earned Illinois a lot of respect in Indiana fans' eyes, honestly, like just the program as a whole, because we are desperately looking for these guys to show an ounce of metal, and Luke can consistently do it. And the fact that that wasn't harvested here kind of hurts, but we do respect that. We know where he got it.
We know where he got it. He got it in Champaign. He got it in Illinois. If that isn't something to hang your hat on, if that isn't something for you to just feel immensely proud of, I don't know what is. We saw what it feels like to be down as a program. Let's just say the text between myself and Burke last night during the game were very one-sided. We need to be grateful for what we have in Brad Underwood. Sure, he's not perfect, but you see what the alternative could very well be. IU is a storied program, sure. And if you didn't know that, ask an IU fan in their life. And they may not have seen in their lifetime, so have them ask their grandparents, because that's who actually was around when IU was a blue blood program. But I wanted to bring that up because Luke Goody's name was involved. And I know there's a lot of Illini fans who were upset with Luke. I think he was involved with, 5 of the technical and flagrants that were called on Tuesday night. And people have asked me, like, what my opinion on Luke was. And to be honest, I'm not all that upset. Luke Goody is a team player. He's an ultimate role player. And he's more often than not, even before I got into this content creating business, the other podcasts I'd listen to, the premium articles I would read, when they would talk about Luke Goody, they would talk about how he's a future coach in waiting. That you can tell, like, he's all about trying to learn that once his playing days are done, he'll probably get into coaching. And Luke, even on our team, we were blind to see it because he was wearing the orange and blue. But, he's the guy who's going to be playing hard all the time. Sure, he's not great defensively. He's obviously limited athletically. But, him boxing out, was it aggressive? Maybe. But Luke Goody's not the type of player who's a dirty player. I've never looked at him that way. And, again, for me, it's like, I know there's a lot of vitriol when it comes to how he played. And a lot of Illinois fans, at least in my mentions, have been saying that, calling him a turncoat. He's not a turncoat. If we're being honest here, he was pushed out. Okay, I think if it was up to him, he would have stayed here and gotten paid a little bit more money. But that's just, we wanted to go in a different direction. And IU, his growing up as a kid, dream school, offered him a boatload of money. And when that happens, you want to feel wanted. And you want to feel wanted by the school that you'd always dreamed about going to begin with. Doesn't change anything in my eyes. In his position, I would have probably have done the same exact thing. I would have, I can't, that's why I don't have any hatred towards the guy. He got his degree here. He played an important role on Illini teams in the past. And when it comes down to it, take a look at our roster this year. How many minutes would Luke play on this Illinois basketball team? Marginal. You're talking about maybe 10 minutes tops. You have Trey White starting at the 3, and then you have Will Riley coming off the bench. Luke Goody's not taking any of those minutes. So whether we like it or not, this was just a best for both parties move. And again, I know maybe it was a little more aggressive than Illini fans liked. But if anything, I liked the fact that he elicited that reaction out of Tomislav. It's nice to know that Tommy's got this sort of monster in him. Because again, I talked about this before. At 7'1", 260 pounds, I don't think he plays like it. But if you're telling me this has the potential of waking up a Tommy into, just being angrier, to being mean, because tape is out there. They know, opponents are going to know moving forward that, hey, if you keep messing around with Ivisic, he's going to start yelling back. He's going to start getting back at you. People may not do that down the road. Because Paris had the nicest things to say. Like, I love Tommy. That's it. Brad Underwood said, what? If I'm going to a Pizza Hut fight, I'm not going up against Tomislav Ivisic. By the way, shout out to the Pizza Hut Club, which, by the way, you can join. Just join the Discord, which should be in the description. We're talking Illini all day, every day. My thoughts on Luke is we're not playing Luke Goody again, right? Best of luck. Do I wish maybe that he played a little, or again, I'll be honest. It didn't look like dirty to me. It just looked like a coach's kid. One of those guys that we always hate that play for an Iowa or a Wisconsin or a Duke, just those grindy type of guys. I think Luke was he was playing his best effort, and he was the only one doing it. And the reason being is his previous career, he was brought up in a culture where they told you to play your butt off. How do I know that? The way I just started the segment. Burke White, a diehard Indiana Hoosier fan, has said all season long that Luke is the one who has that coaching qualities, who's putting together huddles. That happened yesterday. After that scuffle, Luke Goody went up to Umar Balo, was like, hey, chill out, with Mike Woodson behind Luke at the time. And in the post-game press conference, of course, Luke had the coach speak. You know, I understand when people are upset, but I don't think there's a need to be. It's one of those, this move ultimately worked out for everybody. Luke gets to play more minutes at his childhood favorite school, and he's getting paid pretty handsomely for it. Illinois has Trey White, has Will Riley, and it's just not some. And we saw it. Luke Goody can get exposed on defense, right? This team is a vastly superior defensive team than last year. It's one of those I've gotten over, and I hope that you guys are going to be able to get over at some point too. This message is brought to you by Prize Picks, the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, Prize Picks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or regular season, Prize Picks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all the football action. Now it's playoff time. There's no better way to get in on the action than Prize Picks. Here's how it works. You simply pick more or less on at least 2 players. And if your pick hits, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. That's right, 1,000 times your money just by making a few simple picks. Ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with Prize Picks. Prize Picks. Run your game. Big week in Illini basketball. We took care of the Indiana Hoosiers on Tuesday night. Obviously, a big game against Michigan State on Sunday, who I believe is playing as of this recording. That should be a game to watch and to observe, especially if you want to start scouting your future opponent. Before I let you go, again, please make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're almost at 2,000. And I really think that we can potentially hit 2,000 subs before the end of the month. And my gosh, that would be absolutely amazing. Let's get to the comments before I say goodbye. Fighting Illini 23 says Coach of the Year. It's close. It really is. If Dusty May, let's be honest here. And I'm going to put my Brad Underwood fanboy hat on. If Dusty May ends up winning the Big Ten Conference, taking over a team that went 3-17 last year, it's going to be impossible not to give it to Dusty. The only chance that we have is if the writers essentially do what they did last year, where they gave Fred Hoiberg and Painter the Coach of the Year together, like co-coaches of the year. The job Brad Underwood has done is amazing. And I'm going to say selfishly, biasedly, that Brad Underwood deserves to be the Big Ten Coach of the Year. Turning over 10 guys on your roster, really just having one remaining, and then having a team arguably better than the team that went to the Elite Eight last year. But if we want Coach to get that hardware, I think we're going to need the Michigan Wolverines to lose a couple of games. Because if they win a conference, going from 3-17 to winning the Big Ten Conference, the regular season title, I really think that he might steal the award, and it's going to elude Brad for one more year. Fighting Illini, I also think Ballo thought he saw a donut hiding behind Big Time. I'll tell you one thing, that was the fastest Umar ran all game long. Justin gets the vibe. Exactly. Smash the like button while you guys are here. 15 people hit that like button. We got 23 people here. So the math is not mathing. Antonio says, big fan, brother. Sending positive vibes from Rochester, Minnesota. ILLINI. You know, that's a new thing. Let me know where you guys are watching from. And, you know, even on the audio side, you know, we have listeners from Hong Kong. Whichever one of you is watching from Hong Kong, say hello to me in the comment section. Send me a message on social media. That's amazing. It's such a cool feeling to know that this show is literally going all around the world. Eric says, hey, Sunny, go Illini. And Eric says, I love Luke Goody. I have no ill will towards Luke. You know, he had his tenure here. And again, they seem to all have left on good terms. So why am I going to be upset with him? Again, we're going to have a big week of Illini content. We're on January 15th, and I have yet to miss a day of producing a 25 to 30-minute show of Illinois basketball or football. So, and I'll continue to do that as long as you guys continue to show support. Remember, I'm the only channel out there that's giving you content every single day. So if you're already subscribed to this channel, find me on Instagram and subscribe to me there. You know, it'll just help me build those channels up. And remember, send me a message on those. It's me responding. I'm the one in charge of all those channels. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.